All right, we are back at it on the SuccessFlow podcast, and today we have a real treat for you listeners, something that's been in the mix for a while, and an awesome guest. Welcome to the podcast, Kisten. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you guys today?
Better that you're here.
Thanks for having me.
We always love having guests on. I don't know if Phil's talked a lot about you to me, and I know we've been trying to get you on the pod for a while. I know you guys are close and have met at Reset, which we'll talk about the backstory there and how you have become friends. But have you listened to the podcast at all? Do you have any idea what you're about to get into?
I have. I told Phil actually when Callie had told me about your podcast. I went back and I listened to Callie's episode and then a few different episodes, and I ended up just like, I think it was 3 or 4 walks that I just obsessively listened to your podcast.
That's awesome. We got a fan, Phil, our one and only. I think there's only like 3 of them, and all 3 of them are being recorded right now.
We love to hear that. And this is, I mean, Kisten and I have had multiple podcasts. We've just never recorded them. So
that's funny.
you mentioned Reset was kind of the genesis of this, and Kisten has worked at Reset for a while now, but that's not her main vocation, which we'll get into here in a bit. But yeah, a number of great conversations coming out of the sauna and cold plunge and talking about life. And I think why we're excited to have you on is Stephen and I'm going to speak for Stephen here. We love stories of people that are, they're going through resistance or struggles and some fights that life is throwing at them, but don't use that as a way to show up taking from the world, but show up as a light to the world. And you absolutely do that. Getting to know you're such an awesome impact on everyone you're around. We're really looking forward to the conversation today, now that we're finally hitting record.
Well, thank you. That means a lot.
So you guys met at Reset, which is like, I've been there a couple of times. And for the listeners who don't know, they have the cold plunge, the hot tub, the sauna, and things like that. Phil's dragged me in there a couple of times, and and then took my wife in there a couple of times. And so I know you both are regulars, but it really does prompt a lot of conversation. You just get this whole, no pun intended, this reset of your body and your mind. And so I love how you said we've had multiple podcasts and just never hit record. So it sounds like you guys have had a lot of deep conversations, which is great. And as Phil mentioned, our whole goal with this podcast is to share ideas and philosophies and helping listeners define success for themselves. Everyone's got their own perception of it. You have your own perception of it. And that's why I wanted to have you on and kind of chat with you about your life and your work and what you love to do and how you define success for yourself and all that good stuff. So take us back a little bit. Give us the start. Where's Kisten from? How did you get into what you're doing now? And give us the timeline.
Well, a lot of people answer this question with the simple, what I do for work or what I love to do for a hobby. And I am a speech therapist. I love to go to Pilates and hot yoga, and I just picked up on golf maybe a couple years ago.
So that's awesome.
Mostly going to the range. Let me preface that. But I call it golf. But also more importantly, I think I also would identify as, a daughter and a sister. I'm a friend. I'm someone who's very, very passionate about living a healthy life and showing up as my best self. And I think that is almost as important, if not more important than, the titles that people give me.
That is a bamboo banger out the gate. That's what we call knowledge bombs or drops of insight. And you just started off with a huge one there. I love that. It's much more than what we do for work, but relationships are everything, which is a big theme for the podcast. I guess I know we're going to get to kind of current state and how you're showing up now in the world, et cetera, but take us back to kind of your origin story, what kind of shaped you, early stages of life, and we can kind of paint a picture from the early days to start off here.
I was born in Texas, moved here when I was 4. My mom married my stepdad when I was 5, so it was really cool to be a part of their wedding and to remember it. They had my sister, so we just grew up here in Scottsdale. I didn't really know what I wanted to be when I grew up. At first, I thought maybe I wanted to be a teacher. Then I thought I wanted to be a doctor. Kind of went down the path of maybe a nutritionist for a little bit. The barriers with all of those were a teacher. The ratio of students to you is very high. And then with being a doctor, I'm terrified of needles, so I can't imagine poking people with needles. So I was like, maybe not the best option. Nutrition has always fascinated me, but chemistry, I took like 2 weeks of that and was like, I think I'm going to switch. So I went to physics and I loved that class. And then, I stumbled upon speech therapy because my aunt was talking to me. She's a speech therapist at Georgia, at a hospital in Georgia. And she basically said, hey, like you could do this in the schools and you don't have to poke anyone and you could work with kids and you've nannied for so long. This might be the perfect field for you. So I kind of blindly walked into speech therapy and honestly, I'm so grateful for it. And ironically, I'm not in the schools. When I did the rotations, I realized in Arizona, we don't have caseload caps. So you could have one speech therapist that sees over 150 kids and They can offer you some support, but really you're seeing kids in groups that really need one-on-one attention. And so the development and the layout of these programs could be a lot better for the kids. And I found the skilled nursing facilities as my second rotation in grad school, and I ended up loving it. I loved the acute care setting where someone just had respiratory failure. They had a heart attack, a stroke, brain injury. They were in a car accident. Don't know if I said that yet. Sorry. Brain fog is a real thing. And just helping them recover and getting back to eating, drinking, communicating, saying, I do want something or I don't want something. And that to me was like, ooh, I found it. I found what excites me. And so that's kind of where I grew up in Texas and how I came to Arizona and landed on speech. And
that's a perfect setting of the table. And I think that draws me back to one of our conversations that was really enlightening to me was the fact that, and I'm sure Stephen as a father can talk to some of this, is that I always thought of my mind with speech pathology always went to developmental challenges. And that I've witnessed a lot of my peers as they have children can kind of freak out if their children are not far enough along a curve and they start getting feedback from educators and it's like, are we behind? Are we not? And that developmental curve. My little sister couldn't roll her R's well into kindergarten, and she's extremely eloquent now, but shout out Megan, if you're listening. Know that you got through it without speech pathology. But that's where I went as opposed to physical trauma and the effects that can have on your vocal cords, on your just the way your mouth can move. So that was pretty eye-opening to me and was curious, like, is there a percentage of what you're dealing with from a trauma perspective versus developmental, or is it kind of all across the board?
I would say it's all across the board, and that's a really great question. Sometimes in the children's hospital, kids come in and they have a diagnosis of autism or Down syndrome. And then on top of that, they had a stroke or a heart attack or were in a car accident. And so then you're treating not only the new acute symptoms that they may have, but also figuring out what were their skills before? Were they able to communicate before or not? And how can we get them back to where they were? So it's a lot of helping parents navigate those roads. And it can be tricky when you did or you didn't have those skills. And some of the kids we see too in the hospitals don't necessarily have familial support. And so we don't always know those things either.
Yeah, we do have some experience with that. My son was, I think he was like 3 or 4 or so, and he ended up going, seeing a speech therapist, and it was part of the school. It was actually, it's like, oh, wow, this is where our taxes go, because it wasn't out of our pocket, and he had to get approved. And I can't remember exactly what the acronym was or what the program was, EAP maybe, or something like that. I'm not sure, but it was IEP? Like IEP. Yes, that's what it was. IEP, right? With an E. Yeah. So that's what it was. And, but it was free for us, but the district we were in paid for these kids that needed that extra little help. And, I think it's important, like when you have the opportunity to get a little nudge to get these guys through that tough challenge of developing through the speech and different things. But I think what was interesting is not only were you helping kids, but you're helping adults that were going through a traumatic experience. And now they're like, hey, I was able to speak just fine. And then all of a sudden now I'm in a car accident or have a neurological issue. And now I have to figure this out. I can't imagine how frustrating that would be Do you find it to be a lot harder working with patients like that are in adulthood that knew how it was before versus kids who never knew what it was before, and they just got to figure it out? Which one do you prefer working with, or which one's harder, I would say, or more challenging for you?
That is a really great question. I think it all depends on the person and their personality. Some adults are more motivated because they're like, oh, I could do this before. I want to be able to do it again. And so they get up every day and they show up and they're like, let's do it. Whereas some kids maybe don't understand why we're doing what we're doing. They don't have the ability to understand just yet. Their brain isn't developed in that skill, or their brain has been injured in that area. And so then it's kind of hard to find that buy-in. You really have to motivate people. And some people have that internal drive, and some you find those external factors that motivate them. And so with adults, I had one guy I saw, and I could not get the symptoms that I was looking for to show up. And this was outpatient, and he loved F1 racing. So I started watching F1 racing, and I got really into it. And I went into his room one day and I was like, oh my gosh, I just watched F1 and I saw Max, he won the race. Like, can you believe it? And he got so excited and all the symptoms started showing up. And so I think for certain people, you have to really find that buy-in. And for others, it's just there.
You can tell with your backstory of like, hey, I don't know if I want to be a teacher, nutritionist. Well, at the end of the day, you just always seemed like you wanted to be there and help people. And that's the biggest struggle when people are going through tough times. They need that person that can kind of tap into what is going to make them tick and what's going to get them excited about getting better. Because I can see how people can go in some dark places and feel like, what's the outcome of this going to be? It's never going to work out. And you're there to remind them like, yes, you can do this. And whether it's watching F1 or something else, it's pretty unique ability that you have. Not many people have that awareness to, that social awareness to tap into what they need to get themselves better. So kudos to you. It's awesome.
Thank you. I think yesterday I was talking with a therapist and I said, I was warned I'm a PRN, so I work as needed. If you took PRN medication, it would be medication as needed. And so they had warned me this patient may be a little handsy, maybe a little inappropriate, maybe not willing to participate. And with inpatient rehab, you have to get certain minutes for insurance to qualify for them, to stay where they're at, to get the care that they need. And I was like, okay. So I came in prepared. This guy was super sweet, but he did need that like motivation. Like, what's the buy-in? And he told me, I can't swallow. And I was like, well, how do you know if you don't try? Because it was all like, I can't even try an ice chip kind of thing. Yeah. And I'm like, well, it's just like a muscle. If you're not using it, you're losing it. Like, you're not swallowing your spit. We swallow our spit 200 times a day. Then we eat and we swallow all of our food. Now you're not swallowing anything. Your muscles are getting weaker. So sometimes you have to have those like come to Jesus, like I call them come to Jesus talks, and like rationalize with them and say like, hey, like if I go to the gym, I'm getting stronger. You're not. So like, I'm going to be here for 45 minutes. Either I get stronger or you get stronger. You get to choose.
That's so great. And I'm stuttering now because as soon as you said that, we swallow our spit, just went to do it. Because I heard that. Have you ever heard this test? I'm totally taking this on a tangent, but like the regulation of your nervous system, if you can't swallow 3 times in a row, like your nervous system is dysregulated. Have you heard this before?
No, but I just tried to swallow.
Now I'm going to try it. Hang on.
I know. Now we're going to do it live and have to edit this out. But anyway, that's where my mind is. So I'm just sitting here swallowing. I love how you've kind of talked through, and I knew this coming into the conversation about, and we didn't come on to talk all speech pathology, but you're helping people day in and day out. Even at Reset, you're helping guide people through the cold, not lose their selves as they're going through the cold plunge and all the modalities. But I do want to transition this into how you've had to lean into taking care of yourself and that journey, which is, as we know, putting our oxygen mask on first isn't always our best attributes until we have to, which you have. And I know that you called out the brain fog piece a little bit earlier. And what stemmed from one of our great conversations was how it's a holistic battle to maintain the mind and our focus and how we want to show up. So let's transition into kind of the challenges that you've had recently and how you've had to kind of put that oxygen mask on, and eventually how you're helping others that might be going through a similar thing.
Yeah, so I think what kind of drew me to Reset was I had a lot of stomach issues growing up and I couldn't figure it out. I went to multiple GI specialists. I tried different medications. I did a colonoscopy and endoscopy. After that, I ended up getting fired for taking time off for that because I didn't know you had to prep for those things, which what 25-year-old knows that. Yeah. So at that point, I realized I needed to go PRN. I needed to work part-time so I could focus on my health because I couldn't go out to eat without getting sick. My diet became very, very restricted. It went from, eating everything to not being able to eat dairy, then no soy, garlic, onions. The list just kept going on and on. Bananas, like healthy food.
Became a smoothie connoisseur right now.
Yeah. And so after that, I got desperate. I was like begging doctors, like something's wrong and I need answers. And they didn't really know what to do with me. And finally I had a doctor, Dr. Rao. I'll never forget him. He's a great one. If you're looking for a GI specialist, there's no affiliation here, but I really adore him. He took the time to dig a little bit deeper. He knew that I was getting full really, really quickly. It was Father's Day a couple years back, and I ate like 3 bites of steak, and my dad was like, how's the steak? Is it not good? And I was like, no, it's really good, but if I have any more, I'm going to get sick. And ironically, my sister's terrified of vomit, so I'm like, definitely can't happen here. And I realized every time I would eat more than like 3 or 4 bites, I would get sick. And I looked in the mirror one day, my mom's like, you're really, really skinny. And I was 90 pounds. I was super malnourished. I couldn't remember things. I got lost driving around the city. This was last summer. And I took a deep dive. I went to every doctor I could. I wasn't really getting a lot of support with my PCP. So my parents were like, please go to the hospital. So I went to the hospital. I met an incredible doctor who has a background in internal medicine. And he basically said, like, you're very, very knowledgeable. You do a lot of the right things. You have water filters, air purifiers, but there's something in your environment that's making you sick. You need like a functional medicine doctor or a naturopath doctor, which is awesome that I got that information. I felt so empowered, but then I felt so discouraged because a lot of them were out of pocket. And at this point I had met my deductible. So I was like, shoot. And so found a doctor, I paid out of pocket. She basically validated that everything that I was looking at and feeling was likely mold related. And I made the connection with mold because 1, I lived in leaky apartments. 2, I went down the Instagram rabbit hole because I had been to Johns Hopkins, Mayo. I had been considering going to Cleveland Clinic. I went through all the main like good hospitals. And, I was praying one day. I was sitting in my car and I was like, God, just show me a sign. I'm a sign girl. I always need a sign for something. And I usually ask for specific signs, but sometimes they're not really specific. And I look up and I'm in traffic, and I never am in traffic because my parents live 10, 15 minutes away. And it's a mold restoration van in front of me. And I got chills right away. And I was like,
That's wild.
Right? I took a picture of it too because I was like, I have to document this. And I called them and I talked to this guy, and we talked for like an hour and a half. And then he called his friends in the mold industry that do environmental mold for like plants and stuff. And he nerded out because I'm a crazy plant lady. There's plants all behind me. And so I don't know, I have probably 70 plants. It became a plant hobby during quarantine.
Yeah.
And so then I was curious. I'm like, okay, well, every time I change the soil and the plants, I like swell up and I can't breathe and I have these reactions. So I started putting things together. I was like, okay, well, every time I do the bubbles at work with kids, I can't breathe. And I'm like, oh my gosh, now I'm blowing moldy bubbles at kids at work. That's also morally conflicting. So then I found a functional medicine doctor who did get covered by insurance. We did all the testing back in March, and it came back positive. So it's kind of
crazy.
Weird celebrating that I have mold, but it's more I'm celebrating that I have an answer. I'm celebrating that I have like a diagnosis, a label for the symptoms that I have so that I can actually get the right treatments and get options to heal. Because at that point, I was working 5 to 10 hours a week. I was considering going on disability. So going back to how I found Reset was sweating, making sure your like detoxification systems are really active and on point. Because if you're not detoxing naturally, which 1 in 4 people can't, then we have to support those detoxification systems even more. So that kind of got me to where I'm at, which is detoxing mold right now.
Absolutely.
What a crazy story. And to get that sign, like I'm a bit of a signs guy too. Like that's not just a coincidence. That's something's telling me something. But speaking of the health thing, like there's no, I mean, it's so hard for people to make change for themselves if they don't have a health issue. They know they're not unhealthy or they're putting things in their body they know they shouldn't, but they haven't really had that scare yet, right? And so once you have that scare, then it's like, okay, now I need to make some changes or not, and then, not so great things happen later in life. But for you to just get the answer, like you said, of like what this is and what's going on, probably changed your entire mindset of like, oh, clicked, got it. Let me fix it. This is what I got to do. And now you're moved on and you've changed your entire look of your outlook on life and how to be a healthy person once you beat this. And I've had my fair share of health scares in the last few years, and that got me to change my relationship with other, not so great things that I was doing to myself. And so it's like, it's also almost, you just need that a little bit, that wake up call. And sometimes you ask for it and sometimes you don't. And in your case, you didn't ask for it, but you figured it out. And now you're out there helping others going through, other situations that they're having trouble with. So appreciate you sharing that story. That was really cool.
Yeah, it's really weird to, look back on how things have changed so much in this last year. Like last year at this time, I was meeting with vascular surgeons. I had lost so much weight that like my veins were compressing on my organs. And so I wasn't getting good blood flow. And to think that I was told I would never get better. I'd be sick forever. I'd probably need a feeding tube. So I thought in my head, I was like,
that's crazy.
Imagine going into the hospital as a speech therapist if I still get to do my job and being like, hey, I can show you my feeding tube like you show me yours. Like, I thought like maybe that'd be really cool. But at the same time, I'm so grateful I didn't have to get to that point and that there was, something that can be done.
And I know that's kind of a perfect segue into one of our first conversations, or one of the many, was talking about how you're trying to share more and kind of provide some guidance for individuals that might be going down the same path, being able to provide the information that you've gathered, like you went down the rabbit hole. And I guess, how are you, or maybe you give us and the listeners kind of a starting point of things to look out for. I know you've talked about some of the symptoms before, but what's kind of a starting point where you like to start people off that might be seeing some of these red flags, or what are the red flags to look for?
Yeah, I would say be conscientious about what we're putting in and on our bodies. Our body is, it's our vessel. That's what we get to use while we're here. And there's a lot of people that have the outlook like, oh, well, I'm healthy, I'm fine, I'm not going to worry about it till it happens to me kind of thing. But like, I almost lost everything. And that was really, really tough. Like to have people have to pick up groceries for me and to like ask people to help me vacuum. Like those were things that like I was so fine doing on my own. I could work 60 hours a week and then do that and more. So like, don't wait till you have to make those changes. Start small. Start with little things. I have a water filter now. I don't water filter everything, but I filter the water that I drink and the water I shower in. For me, whole foods has been a huge, huge change. I really try to cut out like processed foods. Our bodies aren't meant to eat all of the processed stuff. It's maybe 200 years old, and our bodies were designed hundreds and hundreds of years ago and not designed to eat that stuff. And then also like our products, what we use. So cooking oils was a huge thing for me. I didn't realize that like what I cook everything in made a huge difference. I was using like vegetable oils years ago before I realized like olive oil is probably a little bit safer. And then now I switched completely to tallow because a lot of toxins bind to fat. So my theory was is if I switch to like a healthier fat, then I'm getting all the bad fats out. And that's been a huge like positive impact for me. I still drink coffee. I know that coffee is susceptible to mold.
Yeah, don't be telling people not to drink coffee just yet. We're not ready for that.
I think, for me, it's like finding that balance. Like I still want some of those joys in my life. And I have some chronically ill friends that say, be all in, cut it all out. And I've been in that phase of life. And I debate it often going back because I know I feel really good. I know I don't have as many flare days and I can work more and I'm not in as much pain because really what a flare is like your body is swelling up with inflammation. Inflammation is causing your joints to have more pain. And I would go from 5 to 20 pounds overnight to over 4 days. And so really reducing those triggers for me was a huge thing. And I know that if my body is getting inflamed, then my brain is getting inflamed and it's really not supporting me. So just listening to your body, like if there's something that you're doing that just doesn't feel good, don't do it. Like your body and our intuition is so strong. And I was actually talking to Callie about this the other day. 200 years ago, we didn't have technology to say you slept really good last night, Phil. Steven, great nutrition today. You hit your step count, Kisten. Nice job. We didn't have that. We just had our brains and our bodies to listen to and said, hey, you slept really good. Or hey, you need more sleep. Or hey, you're really hungry and you're craving a good steak. And so I think just being in tune with our bodies is the most important thing that we can do.
Yeah, it's something we come back to the podcast a lot. It's simple, not easy, though, right? Now, there's the modern society. It is not easy, but it is simple when we just say whole foods. And yeah, it's a little bit more expensive, maybe, depending on how you're calculating it. But the intention of this is the only vessel, this is the only machine I have to get me, you only get one, there's no trading it in. And the ability to make those decisions on what we're consuming, what we're putting on our body has to be first and foremost, and it's a part-time job, at least in the beginning, to build those habits with everything that's coming from a convenience perspective, palatable foods, social interaction. We talk about this being the most important thing, but it's simple, not easy. I guess, how do you combat that? Or besides, our baseline habit change, what are some of the ways that you go about that besides sharing it with other people, which I think is one of the best things you do?
Yeah, I would say I still struggle with that a lot. Think about this. You think about your kids' social events at school. They're centered around food. People bring cupcakes in for birthdays, or it's, Valentine's Day, we're bringing treats in. You think about work and your potlucks, like you have a potluck for your meetings at work or, a lunch and learn. Everything's centered around food. So when you have restrictions around food, it gets really overwhelming. And it can be very isolating. I think for a long time, I just avoided being around those situations because I didn't want to say oh, I have allergies or I have this or that and explain things. But now I think it's not good and healthy to be completely avoidant of those things. So like you said, Phil, talking about it has been a huge door to making it a little bit more comfortable to be in situations where, I may not eat as much as someone else because I have gastroparesis, so my stomach doesn't digest food. And if I was to eat a full meal, I'd get really sick after. Or telling people I can't do sugars and grains as much as I really love sourdough. And I was on a sourdough kick for a long time. That is feeding the mold in my body, unfortunately. And so some people really want an explanation of why you do things. And I think too, alcohol is one of those things where people are well, why aren't you drinking? And I think it's becoming more socially acceptable that we don't need to give anyone an explanation. We don't owe anyone an explanation. And if you want to talk about it, you're more than welcome to. But for me, those just aren't healthy choices for me right now. And do I do them sometimes? Yes. I'm not perfect, but finding that balance and then finding a way to like talk about it with people so that they understand like, oh, there is dairy in this and you just took a bite of it. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And I'm also going to go home and probably regret this for 3 days, 3 to 5 business days.
So forgive my ignorance here. So you've got it. Like there's mold. Is it active? Is it dormant? It can, if you don't take care of yourself or you don't follow this health protocol, then it could reactivate itself and cause a lot of issues. Like it doesn't go away. This is now the lifestyle. This is the identity shift. This is what is required for you to stay healthy. Is that correct?
That's a road I'm navigating to also figure out too. My functional medicine doctor said like, if you're all in, complete recovery could take about 3 years, especially with the levels of mold that they found in my body. I've been on and off with being all in. There's just moments where I break it. And then when I break it, my body starts to crave it because what's craving it is the mold and the fungus. And so then my body starts to swell and it gets the symptoms of, tremors or, brain fog or nausea, more gastroparesis symptoms. So I think, yes, if I stick to the lifestyle, the faster I can detox my body from this and then hopefully be able to reintroduce them. But there is no guarantee I can reintroduce it. I personally am very hopeful. I think, I believe in God and I keep praying. I'm like, just give me the strength to be.
Yeah. Well, what's incredible about it though, is you've channeled this discipline to focus on, and it's probably translated in so many other areas of your life. Like once you build this one healthy habit and you change your relationship with food or change your relationship with alcohol is definitely like one of the ones that everybody can change your relationship with alcohol and just feel immediately clearer within a few days. Like if you're used to drinking, having a couple of drinks every day or every other day, like cut out alcohol for a week and see how awesome you feel, right? Like it's a simple step. I had valley fever in 2021, which is, a fungus, and it was in the lungs, and it was like, what is going on? And so it clicked for me like, okay, there's something here. And now I got to do, so for a year I had to do monthly labs and all that, but it feeds off of sugars and cheese and dairy, like everything you're talking about. So I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm grateful that it went dormant and I haven't had to be so disciplined in that area. But what it did is open up my eyes on how my body felt when I did cut out a lot of that stuff. And it helped me in that path to change my relationship with a lot of those crappy things that I'm putting in my body. So what's cool for you is you have figured it out. And now you probably feel like a freaking gazelle every single day. Like you're just running around like, this is amazing. And who knew that if I just ate healthy and took care of myself, that I could be unstoppable. And you can see it and shining through as you're talking about it.
Yeah, I think, if you are to, for me, not you, but if I am to have like a little bit of alcohol for a special occasion or something, I now have ways that I know are going to help my body. I know dandelion root tea is really great for helping the liver detox. I know my castor oil packs every few days are really great for the body too. So just finding like healthy things that are very natural is really supportive of finding the balance with all of that. But yeah, I think, with you and talking about how it went dormant, I didn't know I had Epstein-Barr, which I guess is mono. And that was something that also was activated and triggering some of the symptoms. And so there are people with mold that have co-infections of Epstein-Barr or valley fever or even Lyme. And so addressing kind of the whole picture is really, really important. And so for me, my doctor said we have to address the mold first, and then we can address everything else down the road.
You highlighted your faith there a minute ago, and I know that was a part of our conversation as well. Reset to me, even though it's not branded this way, for me personally, it's a spiritual place. And that higher power when you're going through something like you are, I know means a lot. Sometimes it's the only thing you have. How has that shaped kind of going through the process? Has your faith strengthened? Has your spiritual practice ebbed and flowed? Like I think usually it does. How has that journey been through this?
I would say, yeah, it ebbs and flows just kind of naturally, like most people's relationship with God. But I would say it also got a lot stronger because, I don't know, my parents are my backbone. They're my people. I love them to death. I can't imagine life without them. And so when I was going through this and they didn't necessarily understand, I was so confused. I was like, my mom's an ER nurse. So she's like, well, you're not bleeding and there's no bones that are sticking out of your body. Like, you're fine. But then she knew looking at me, she's like, you're not fine. Something is wrong. And I think that scared her. And that also was like, I should know this. Like, I'm an ER nurse. And so I think for maybe the first few months while all of this was like kind of shaping out, our relationship was a little rocky because she didn't understand and I didn't understand how she was experiencing things. Like, I truly can't imagine as a parent watching your adult kid like get sick in front of your eyes. That's not what's supposed to happen. And so I think for me, like praying and being like, okay, God, like how can I show up not only for myself, but like for my family too? And like, how do I explain to them, like, this is what I'm going through? Because I think part of it is sharing in a way that they understand a little bit better. And so therapy was a huge thing for me. As I went to therapy and I was like, hey, I've been to therapy on and off for years. I was like, this is a weird thing, but I have chronic illness and now I don't know how to explain it to the people I love. And that's when I started sharing it with Instagram, because I felt like there were a lot of people I love that were checking in on me, but I just didn't know how to talk about it. And it's not like you can text someone back like, yeah, I have mold, and they get it. Like, you have to kind of really talk more in depth about it.
I'm glad you brought that up, because there's so many people that don't post on social media. They feel like it's weird, but everyone's scrolling on social media. And if you've got a story, everyone has a story. Everyone's going through something. And if you shared that story, I guarantee you're helping other people going through similar situations. Not only are you updating your friends and family, like you said, which, by the way, when Instagram first kind of came out, my grandmother, like, she's not with us anymore, but when she was alive, she'd be like, thank you so much for sending the pictures of your kids when they're babies. And she like looked at it as like I was sending them directly to her, and all we were doing is just posting pictures of our kids on Instagram. But we were like the only two people she followed, me and my sisters. But long story short, I'm glad that you're sharing that your story with the world, because there's a lot of people that are really resonating that, whether they tell you or not. And that's one of the most I think neat things about social media, good or bad, however you want to look at it. But I think when you share your story and share the things that you're going through, it's inevitably going to help someone else that's going through something similar, or open the eyes for others who may not know what this is. And then if they do start experiencing something similar, they kind of like, oh, I kind of know what that might be. You've gone through a lot, you've conquered a lot. So how did this challenge and this kind of shift in your life over the last year, have you noticed when other opportunities come your way that you look at them a little bit differently? Like, oh yeah, I got this. Like I have the evidence now that I'm pretty powerful and I can get through things. Has that changed for you in the way you look at new challenging situations or opportunities?
Ooh, that's a good question. I do feel like it's shown me that things are not black and white. When I went to grad school, I was like so under the impression that everything would be black and white, and I realized it's not. And so I say I went from like a type A to like a type A minus person. I still like my life organized, but I realize there's things that are just out of my control. And so I think it allows me to just like really embrace my authentic self by knowing what I can control and what I can't control, and being willing to try new things. I think also with grad school, it was very evidence-based focused. And they also teach you that, clinical interpretations matter and what the patient wants matters. And I think more than ever, I see that not only in my professional life, but in my personal life. Like what I want for myself and my health really matters in the way that I find the doctors that I want. I want a doctor that respects me and has experience and can speak on that. And so I think it's definitely opened my eyes to maybe be a little bit more picky about things in life.
Finding alignment and going for things that you say yes to only things that matter. You're not saying yes to everything anymore. Intentional is the word of the year.
And I try to pick a word every year, and intentional seemed to just really align this year.
That's perfect. And I think you alluded to this earlier, and we're kind of tying out at a perfect point, but we ask all of the guests, what is their definition of success? What is the defining kind of how you put success in words to Kisten?
I've been thinking about this a lot because I know that's how you enter your podcast. I think success to me is just showing up more in alignment with myself every day, showing up for the people that I love, showing up for strangers, being intentional, really valuing my community. I think my morals, my ethics, that is what success is to me, because then I know that I am showing up the way I want to show up, not just showing up because I need to show up.
That is a fantastic answer, and we appreciate you so much for jumping on and joining us today. I know I will see you getting warm and cold very soon, and just thank you so much. We'll link to your Instagram in the show notes, and honestly, just thanks for being you. Keep shining that light.
Thanks for you guys having me on the podcast and hosting this. And one more thing I forgot to mention that was kind of something that we had talked about, Phil, that I think is maybe a podcast for another time. But ketamine treatments were huge for me. And that was something that I think is a little taboo to talk about. And it was very uncomfortable for me to explore, but that made a huge difference. And you, Phil, were one of the first people that I felt comfortable sharing that with. So thank you.
Well, that sounds like a part 2 is coming.
To be open to sharing these things. It's really nice.
It's my pleasure. We'll look forward to an exciting part 2. We'll get weird.
All right.
Thanks so much for hopping on. It's really nice to meet you.
You too. Have a nice day.